Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Great Black Speakers Podcast, where we connect through conversation. I am your host, Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers. I'm also the president and chief operating officer of the Black Business School. So today we have a very special guest. I've been extremely excited about the interview that's coming up right now. Our guest is Walter Cotton III. And Walter is the managing partner of the Cotton Exchange, which is a boutique consulting firm focusing on helping contractors increase their position with the federal government. And today we're talking all about how Black businesses are out here making billions of dollars in combined contracts by contracting with the federal government. And Walter's an expert on this subject, and he's given his time today to speak to you all about this lucrative opportunity. So, Walter, how are you doing today?
I'm well. If I was any better, it'd have to be two of them.
Okay, there we go. You're twins now. That's awesome. So, can you explain to the audience a little bit about what you do and how you've gotten to this point in your career?
Sure. And it probably would help by providing a little bit of a backstory on my government contracting experience, because I'm probably best known nationally for having helped the disabled veteran business community grow their contracting with the federal government from just north of $700 million to well north of $13 billion before I left the advocacy ranks. And I was able to do that because of necessity, right? I'm a business owner like everyone else, and had to go through the school of hard knocks to acquire my experience. And my necessity came from the need to crack the code in federal contracting. I learned at a late stage in my entrepreneurial career that the federal government had established a 3% contracting goal for veterans. And I figured that with my experience, there wasn't a better place that I could apply my talents that would yield generational wealth for my family. So like any other individual, I did the smart thing. I loaded up my truck and I went to DC, right? And I learned a very valuable lesson about contracting with the federal government. And that was that you need more than just a preference in order to get business with the government. But if you're able to crack the code, like the characters in that movie War Dog, and if you haven't seen it, I'd suggest that you do it, because it's almost like a documentary on what I'm talking about. The contracts are absolutely lucrative. So to make a long story short, I found my way to the joint venturing business methodology, used that to acquire my first federal contract, which was novel at that time. It was an $8 million contract, and they put me on the cover of magazines as the $8 million man. And the like. But the difference between myself and what someone else would have maybe done with knowledge, as opposed to hoarding it and keeping it to myself, what I did was got together with a tribe of brothers and went across the country evangelizing to every veteran or disabled veteran who would listen the good news about disabled veteran contracting. And that's how we were able to move that needle from 700 million to, as I said, it's trending well north of 19 billion now.
You said $19 billion in federal contracts for disabled American veterans that you've been a part of?
Correct. Yeah. And one of the things that I want to caution the audience that is listening, because like you have heard all kinds of stories about how you can get rich tomorrow and use social media to become the social phenom, or, you go get 5 people and they get 5 people, right? I've heard all of the ideas in terms of, how you can use your skills to create generational wealth. There is nothing more proven than the federal government's inelastic budget, right? They have over $300 billion year over year that they have to spend in order to keep the government going. And what a lot of the listeners and viewers don't know is that you have a disruptive preference in contracting with the federal government. What you're hopefully going to hear or glean from this podcast is that there is a proven solution, a proven system that you can use to acquire your desired share. But back to your question, yes, I'm talking billions with a B. So let's make sure that we alert the audience that we're talking about thorough riches here, not ghetto digits today.
No, I got it. I got it. And, before I continue on in terms of why, Black organizations and, Black entrepreneurs need to be, moving more, I guess, forward into government contracting, what got you involved with working with disabled American veterans?
Well, I'm a disabled veteran myself, and I had the unfortunate experience of having my military career cut short by a service-connected industry or injury, rather. And as a result of that injury, I went down a vocational rehabilitation path, which took me through college. I finished my degree and found myself working in Fortune 500 companies. So as a disabled veteran that had that unique experience, once I cracked the code on federal contracting, I recognized that my brothers and sisters that were in boots that didn't have my unique pathway weren't going to be able to find their way to this solution because the government's not good about leaving breadcrumbs to show people the way. So as I said, once I found my way, the selfless thing that I did was turn my attention to going back and helping others. As the good book says, to one whom much is given, much is expected. And as a result of that selfless effort and helping all of those veterans, I acquired an enormous knowledge in small business contracting. But my affinity, my allegiance to the veteran and disabled veteran business community is because I am a disabled veteran myself.
Got you. So take me back to the day that you, I guess, realized or that you were notified that you earned this $8 million contract from the federal government. What was going through your mind when you received this contract? Which is your first one, right? Yeah.
It was the first one. It was like it worked, right? It was like bananas, right? Because you have to recognize that we went from crisis to victory overnight. Because like most neophyte business owners, when you start a business, I did what we all do, right? I got my little money. We actually took out a equity line of credit on the house. And I did everything to look like I was in business before I got my first book of business, right? I got the mahogany desk and the office downtown with the receptionist and the business card. I had a website that was the bomb diggity before websites were even popular. So from that perspective, when I made my way to DC to go and try and get some business, I needed that business. I needed that business desperately. So the relief that occurred when this shot in the dark that I had studied myself approved to find work was significant. It was an opportunity for me to exhale. It was an opportunity for me to get mama's eyes off of my back because she had been staring at me because, hey, man, you got this Afro sheen and this dual fluid, and you're going to do this business and it ain't working, right? So it was a tremendous amount of personal relief when that event occurred.
Wonderful, wonderful. And in one moment, I want to get deeper into why Black people, African Americans, need to dig deeper into the industry of federal government contracting. But before I do, just want to remind the people who are just coming in. I'm here with Walter Cotton III. Walter is the managing partner of the Cotton Exchange, which is a boutique consulting firm focusing on helping contractors increase their position with the federal government. And today we're talking all about how Black business owners are making billions with a B, billions of dollars through federal government contracting. So if you like the information that we're sharing today, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button on YouTube. Also, please make sure that you share this video with others who would benefit from this knowledge, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would like to receive more videos like and interviews like the one that we're doing today with brother Walter Cotton. So Walter, I want to get specific in regards to the opportunity for Black people in the United States. What does that look like in regards to government contracting? So why should Black people really be focusing government contracting as a way to earn money for their business?
Well, there are two significant reasons. The first of which is because you own an organic preference that gives you an advantage in capturing federal contracting that people just aren't telling you about, right? Just your social uniform gives you the opportunity to go and make a demand call against a $300 billion budget. And I said that with a B. I said it, I'm not taking it back. Research it, disprove that particular fact. There is a $300 billion market opportunity that is waiting for you to apply your natural gift against. That's the first reason why you want to take advantage of it. The second reason is because it is one of the most controlled ways for you to ascend into entrepreneurialism. A lot of people want to start businesses. The challenge is that the success of the business is dependent on your ingenuity, right? Can you come up with the right idea to fit the right location at the right time so it can go viral and blow up? Well, the probability of that, just based on the attrition rate of small businesses in this country, the vast majority of them fail within the first 36 months of opening the door. The answer to that is not likely. But when you take a controlled environment that has a proven outcome event like you experience in government contracting, you can take a preference, a advantage in operating within that space. It only makes logical sense if you can crack the code and there is enough demand for you to take a more controlled approach to a business venture. Now, the wonderful thing about the federal government is that they buy everything. So there's not an area of business that you can consider that the government doesn't already procure services or procure products in. So if you are contemplating business, right, I would advocate that you don't go off on that wild Geppetto idea that you have, right? You reserve that for a time when you have the available resources to risk, expend towards that wonderful dream. But you focus on a lane like government contracting because it provides you a controlled environment with a predictable outcome if you employ, right, the systems and procedures that are proven. Another example of a space that is akin to this that I would equally champion for neophyte entrepreneurs is the arena of franchising. Because again, you have a controlled environment, right? If you do this, you have a group of best practices that have been proven over that business model, right? If you employ those practices against the model, you're going to be successful. So those are the two primary reasons why I'm motivating, urging, dare I say, encouraging our community to look at government contracting because, and I'm going to say this is critical from my point of view. There are a lot of discussions moving around the country about revitalizing our community and economic development. But at the end of the day, unless we can find a way, right, to shift the economic equation in our community in a way that is advantageous for us, we are going to continue to be lenders and not borrowers, rather, and not lenders. This is an avenue that allows us an opportunity to go in and capture generational wealth. Right? I'm talking about the kind of generational wealth that you have the ability to pass down to up to 5 generations of your family. And it is your social right under the Constitution of the United States of America. So my call to action here is for us to take advantage of this point in time opportunity because people of color aren't the only ones that it's available to, right? It's also available to Asian Americans. It's available to other preference groups. So the alarm that I'm sounding since I wrote the legislation that makes it available is for people who wear my social uniform to go into that vault and get your desired share now. Be the early adapter, be the disruptor that you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a great point, especially talking about other groups having access to this same pool of capital as well. So, you mentioned this budget of $300 billion per year that the government is spending. How much is that? how much of that is going to African American businesses?
Well, right now, actually all of what I'm pointing the attention to is going to other than small business. None of that. Well, I can't say none of that. I would say a fraction, like 0.0000015%, because that is the portion of the federal government spend that is spent with large businesses. So those are your usual household subjects, like, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, and there are not a lot of minority owned, much less Black owned businesses that are playing in that space. The 23% of the federal government's budget that is relegated for small businesses, the Black business community participates in that spend, and they're probably participating in that spend to the rate of somewhere north of $26 billion on an annual basis. But when you think about that spend, and it's important to juxtapose these two categories, the spend that is already categorized and already being proportioned and goaled for minority businesses is already being enjoyed by minority businesses. The spend that I'm pointing our community's attention to, and the code that I've unlocked, is this $300 billion spend. So we're talking about going into a virgin demand patch and taking our desired share. And the beautiful thing about this is that we don't have to ask for permission, right? This is already legislated to our advantage. All we have to do is get out of the mustard so that we can catch up. And what I mean by that, we just need to understand the systems and procedures that are necessary to capture our desired share. And having created individuals who have taken down contracts that are as large as $1.4 billion, small business set-aside contract award. Michelle Anthony sitting on a $900 million staffing contract. This is a sister in Atlanta. Y'all could meet her. I'm talking to you about what everyone within the sound of my voice has the ability to do. And my mission is to duplicate what I've done on the veteran side of the equation at a minimum with people of color.
Got it. And, you mentioned these numbers in terms of 26 billion, and, that's a small fraction of, what the overall spend is. And you mentioned this concept of systems, right? So understanding the system, cracking the code, you've talked about those types of, words throughout, today's podcast. So, what are the other things that are keeping, Black entrepreneurs back from, moving into this space and getting these contracts?
I think that the major challenge is the inability to recognize when you're being shepherded by the wrong assets. I run into minority veteran entrepreneurs in this space all the time who are just exhausted in their efforts to try to find people to support them, because the government throws resources all around you, right? You got your small business development centers, you got, right, this at the SCORE, right? The organization for retired executives that are supposed to help you. But what happens is these entrepreneurs who are well-meaning get tired of searching for the lane of success while being chauffeured by failure, right? So what ultimately happens is they get not disenfranchised, they get jaded about whether or not the program will work at all. And after a while, you get a cultural belief that grows in a community that area of business is off limits to you, because I've never seen anybody go down that road and come back successful. When in point of fact, it's just a function of them not knowing where they're going and not knowing how to make the mid-course adjustments to get them there from here. And so what I've done, and I've been blessed with the ability to achieve, is create a course that actually provides a step-by-step, end-to-end solution on how to crack the code in federal contracting. A lot of people think that the contracting space is more of an art, right? It's like who you know, right? If you know the right person, they can give somebody a wink and a nod. That's not the way it works at all. It's all governed by rules and regulation. And he who knows his rights has the ability to rule. Here's a little gem about federal contracting that a lot of people don't know. All contracts in the federal government are prioritized for small business award. All. That is the policy of Congress. If you don't believe me, check the Small Business Act. Now, what that means to the person that's listening to me is that if you can demonstrate to the federal government that you can deliver what they're looking for in a small business envelope, notwithstanding any other provision of law, very important language in the federal government, they have to give you the business. That's how we've been able to take down these billions of dollars worth of contracts. And more importantly, because of my selfless act that I talked to you about earlier, going around the country helping disabled veterans learn how to, self-sustain, more vigorously participate in the American dream, the previous administration got wind of my competency with small business contracting and asked me if I could come in and make a contribution to their seminal jobs creation legislation, which is the Jobs and Credit Act of 2010. Well, I snuck into that bill authoring room and I wrote some trap doors into that bill that create a uber advantage for everybody that's within the sound of my voice. That's why I'm starting this campaign that you guys are early adapters to hear about, to say, listen, the spook that stood by the door got all of the information. And I want you all to go in there and get that money. It's just that simple. And I'm going to be more detailed about this if they're willing to have me back and unpack this for you. But the point that I'm making to you very, very simply is that I wrote language into that Jobs and Credit Act of 2010 that allows you to become bigger small business and puts you in a position to be able to take business away from the likes of Lockheed, Northrop, General Dynamics, SAIC, the big boys. And if you stick with us, we're gonna show you how.
And I want to get into some of those tactics and just general strategies that our community can use, base level to really get in and start getting this money as it relates to federal government contracting. And I also want to talk about how this compares to new initiatives like opportunity zones that are touted all throughout the media as well. But before I do, welcome to everyone who is just tuning in right now. Today, I am talking with Mr. Walter Cotton III. Walter is the managing partner of the Cotton Exchange, which is a boutique consulting firm focusing on helping contractors increase their position with the federal government. Today, we're talking about how Black business owners are making billions of dollars through federal government contracting as well. So I see you change your background over there, Walter.
This new toy I just learned, and I put some things in. I didn't know it was rendering that quickly. I had the luxury of participating in a historic signing of a MOU between the UN and the HBCU community, which is pictured there in the back. And I was throwing some of those slides in there, but I didn't know it was rendering so quickly. So
no. Yeah, no worries. We'll get through, get to some of those pictures that you have, showing in the background a little later on. But,
sure.
Here right now, we're focusing on how we can help our consumer base or help our, the audience, help them, get into this field as well. So if you like this video, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button. So on the count of three, everyone, please show us some love. So Google and YouTube's algorithm shows us some love. So on the count of three, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button. One, two, three. Press the thumbs up button on YouTube. Show us some love, and please make sure that you share and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you would like to see more content like the content that we're producing today with Mr. Walter Cotton III. So Walter, let's get into the brass tacks. Let's talk strategy. Let's talk tactics in terms of actionable things that we can leave our audience with, so that they can, start learning more and getting into this industry of federal government contracting. So what's the first thing that an entrepreneur, let's say even a new entrepreneur, someone who doesn't even have a business yet, what is the first thing that they need to do, to really take advantage of this federal government contracting opportunity?
The first thing that they have to do is that they have to make up their own mind. And I mean that literally, right? Because there are a lot of misnomers. There are a lot of well-meaning people that are delivering distracting and limiting strategies and theories out there. Like, for example, I'm sure you all have heard that old adage, you got to think outside of the box, right? If you want to be creative, you got to think outside of the box. Well, the truth of the matter is, in point of fact, the person that is thinking inside of the box is confined by the same boundary that the person that's thinking outside of the box is confined by. It's the box, right? They got to hang on to that boundary, right? In order to accomplish the things that you all are going to be attempting or endeavoring to accomplish, you have to recognize that there is no box. We have to break our addiction to the conditioning and the spells that our oppressors have placed on us if we are going to be able to accomplish things that we have never accomplished before. So we have to have a paradigm shift of our own. And that's the first thing that we need to do. Les Brown, I think, said it best when he said, if you're wanting to do something you've never done before, you've got to be willing to become someone you've never been before. So that's the first thing that we have to do. Right? We have to break our addiction to the oppressors' systems, because I mean, I had this epiphany the other day, and I was reading this article that spoke to the fact that in 1681, the first reference in history to the term white people was found. The first recorded word in history that combined the creation of white people in 1681. And it occurred to me that at that same time, the term black people was created. The only difference is the people that created the term white people had the ability to set all the rules. So the first spell that we are under as a collective that we need to break is this spell or this idea that we have this separation in people. So the answer to the question that you asked me, what's the first thing that we need to do, is we need to shift our paradigm. We need to be willing to think boldly and boundlessly. If you do that, then you'll find your way to breaking a belief in limitations. Like, for example, one of the first things that you need to do in order to be able to be contract viable in the federal government is you have to have past performance. You have to have capability and capacity. You have to be able to demonstrate to the federal government that you have been there, done that, or they're not going to give you a contract just because of your preference. So the question is, how do you get there from here? Well, I'm going to show you how you go from the church pew on Sunday to being contract viable on Monday if you pay attention to what I'm cooking right now. Utilizing the joint venturing business model, whereby you take your preference and you combine it with another organization that already has existing past performance and capability, and you create a new organization, a LLC, called a joint venture. What you do is you dynamically and instantly engineer a preference owning business. And I'm going to say that again because I know I went through it real fast. You take your preference. You are a minority woman-owned business sitting in the pew on Sunday. On Monday, you go out and find a small business that doesn't own your preference, but has got past performance. You guys create a partnership, a joint venture. That new joint venture instantly owns your preference and their past performance, making you instantly contract viable. Now, the dynamics of that and the importance of that become clear to you when you understand how the federal contracting market works. Because at the end of the day, the federal contracting market is driven by human beings. And those human beings want to work smarter and not harder. So if you build a relationship with a contracting officer and they get in their mind's eye, listen, I can call Joan for just about anything because I know Joan knows how to do that joint venturing thing. Joan can be in a business making money in any area that contracting officer does business.
So that's
Because
interesting. Yeah, so that's interesting, right? So, you can actually make a business by creating these joint venture partnerships and making money in a lot of different industries, which also is diversifying your revenue in terms of what the federal government may want as well. So, I never thought about that type of strategy before. That's awesome.
as a matter of fact, that's one of the systems that we teach our clients, right? We teach our clients to diversify because we explain to them, like Jay-Z says, you are a businessman, not a businessman. You are the business. And your customer wants what they want in your uniform. So they may want toilet paper today, they may want telecom tomorrow. But if you become proficient at creating strategic alliances, creating joint ventures, you can have a multi-division small business that meets your customer at their value threshold on a consistent basis. And again, you're taking advantage of human nature on the contracting side. Contracting officers want to fire a requirement and forget about it. They don't want it coming back to them in protests and stuff like that. You prove yourself proficient at that, you go from zero to hero. And again, I'm going to reinforce this as many times as I can during this podcast. Folks, we're talking about the production of generational wealth that you already own the capability. You already own the core resource necessary to make it happen. So when I hear people talking about these inclusive growth strategies for our community and things like these opportunity zones, which are, wolves in sheep's clothing, right? That's gentrification just hidden in another clothing, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later, right? I say to myself, if you're talking about an inclusive growth strategy for my community and your strategy doesn't include the needs of Pookie and Day Day in them, then you are not talking about an inclusive growth strategy. Now here we're talking about an entrepreneurial strategy where people can create family limited partnerships, right? To take the entrepreneurial ingenuity of Pookie and Day Day them and focus it on some of these very viable, right, real economic opportunities. Heck, if it worked for Joe Kennedy, why can't it work for you?
Right.
These are the kinds of ideas and strategies, right, we need to be talking about as opposed to, begging people for a grant, right, to help our failing institutions out of trouble. This is one of the most robust seasons we have ever seen in the history of the diaspora. And the diaspora I'm speaking of are the descendants of the continent that are other than in Africa. Given the event that's occurring with the African Union and that free trade zone, brothers and sisters over on the continent need us to get our business acumen together so that we can do import-export trade with them and create a rising tide. So those of you that are within the sound of my voice, and if you're thinking about getting into a product or a commodity area, whether it's healthcare, right, whether it's construction, whether it's telecommunication that puts you in a position to be of value to our brothers over there on the continent, I'm telling you about it. And I'm telling you how to get there from here. Government contracting is the springboard that you can use and not have to ask for permission. And oh, by the way, if we can get hold of our desired share of that $300 billion, we'll never have to ask anyone for reparations or what the heck happened to our 40 acres and a mule again. So I'm talking to you about a solution proven. This is not some pie in the sky idea that empowers you with the ability to be the disruptor that you're looking for.
Yeah,
all you
I
need
love
to
it,
do
man.
is have the tools. And I'm sorry, I get kind of on my high horse here.
Hey, no, I love it. And I love you talking about the grand strategy as well in terms of how this, simple act of government contracting can have such a broader effect, not just on, Black people within the United States, but Black people across the diaspora and on the continent as well. And, I love, how you're talking about that in terms of big picture thinking, because on this podcast with you, the reason I like talking to you is because you can talk both big picture and then also get down to the tactical details in terms of the questions that people have as well. And I want to get into a question after this break in regards to what actually is 8A certification, because I think a lot of people don't actually know what that is. So if you can explain that, that'd be great. But before we do, I am just as a reminder, I'm here with Mr. Walter Cotton III. Walter is the managing partner of the Cotton Exchange, which is a boutique consulting firm on helping contractors increase their position with the federal government. So that's what they focus on. And today we're talking about how Black business owners are making billions of dollars through federal government contracting as well. So if you all like this video, like what we're talking about, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button. Please show us some love so Google's algorithm and YouTube's algorithm can show us some love as well. On the count of three, if you haven't done so already, if you're new and just joined again, on the count of three, go ahead and press the like button for us. 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and press that like button if you're loving this content. Also, please make sure that you share this video and subscribe to our channel as well. One other thing, or two other things, is we are in the early stages of thinking about creating a course with Walter within the Black Business School. So if that's something that you would like to see, please go ahead and make sure that you comment on this video. Comment either in the live chat, or if you're watching this video later, comment in the comments section as well. And if you have any questions for Walter, we'll have time for 2 or 3 of those questions at the end of this podcast. Please ask those in the live chat, and I'll pick 2 to 3 questions for Walter to answer as well. So Walter, let's talk about 8A certification. What is it? Just a simple question. What is it?
The 8A certification is a designation that the federal government gives to those businesses that meet a certain social and economic tier. You have to be both socially and economically disadvantaged to qualify for that program. And what that program ultimately is designed to be is a business development program to give the participants in that program a really unfair advantage in contracting with the federal government. So although a lot of people think of the 8A program as a Black business program, right, or a small disadvantaged business, it's really designed to be more of a broader minority enhancing program. And it has some significant advantages that I won't sneeze at. The greatest of which is the that it gives the contracting officers to do direct sole source contract award to 8A participants of up to $7.5 million without having to advertise it. That's a really, really big advantage. But the 8A is a designation that they use for a class of people that fit into that social and economic designation. And it's not dissimilar to the other contracting programs that they have in the federal government, like the woman-owned business program, right? That's a specific category for women-owned contractors. The disabled veteran community fits into another category. And all of these are preference classes that the government sets up a spending goal against.
Got you. So is it hard to navigate to get, let's say, get that certification and just navigate, this process? What does that look like?
Well, I just had a charmed existence, or I was smarter than the average bear, right? Because I navigated the 8A program application process myself. And I guess that probably is a little bit unfair because I was doing that as I was entering the advocacy space. So I did have some friends that I was able to call that may have expedited my application through the process a little bit. But at the end of the day, the application process isn't overly cumbersome. And the federal government does have a myriad of resources, whether it be the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers, they're called PTACs, and those are free resources that are designed to help handhold you and walk you through the process for applying for any of those programs. And of course, you have a good, healthy cottage industry of fee-for-service consultants out there who will happily take your nickel for performing this or that service that you don't think you can perform. My encouragement and urging to anyone that would be pursuing this space is to learn how to do it yourself. And I say that because if you're going to immerse yourself and you're going to be involved in this arena, you need to understand the inner workings of the arena at the bowels of it, right? You don't want to be delegating critical aspects of your company to other individuals. That's just a open door for exploitation.
Got you. Yeah. And talk about the exploitation a little bit in terms of what you see, right? Because you mentioned that a little bit earlier in the conversation in regards to you have some large companies who want to have access to that designation within the federal government, who take advantage of small businesses and their designation, and put these small businesses in deals that aren't really advantageous to the small business, the minority small business. So can you talk a little bit in terms of what you kind of see when you have, I guess, wolf in sheep's clothing, coming and vying for these additional opportunities that these designations provide?
Well, hold on now, Danny. I got to get my pimp hat if we're gonna go into the pimp section of the show. And I do that tongue in cheek, but there is a mature industry that has grown up around the federal contracting space, exploiting small businesses since time immemorial, right? They've been exploiting minority businesses. They've been exploiting women-owned businesses, and they've been trying to exploit the disabled veteran business. And that's a good news, bad news story, right? The good news is the reason that they're out there exploiting these businesses is for the same reason Jesse James robbed banks, because there's money in it. And there's a significant amount of money in it, or they wouldn't be playing this game for this long period of time, right? The challenge in it is that if you haven't studied yourself or proven you don't know your rights, right, you're giving away, right, some of your family's generational wealth for crumbs, right, as opposed to the crust of bread that you are supposed to own and have. And I'll give you a personal experience, which required me to insulate myself as I was moving through the process. But I was going through the effort of trying to identify joint venture partners that I could work with that could take advantage of my veteran status. And I got connected with a furniture company. I was living in Florida at that time, St. Petersburg, Florida, to be exact. And I got connected with this furniture company and did my joint venture SMEAL, and the guy was going to do the deal. And he got up from his desk and went over to the file cabinet and pulled out a deck of playing cards. Take all of the face cards out of the deck and put the deck on the table and laid it out and said, pick a card. And I said, well, what am I going to do with that? And he said, well, whatever percentage you pick from that deck, that's the percentage you're going to get out of this partnership. My mind was blown. I was like, wait a minute. Now, the regulation here says I'm supposed to have 51%. I know what the regulation says. This is how corrupt and how challenged the underbelly of contracting can be. He was like, I know what the regulations say, but if you want to do this deal with me, this is the way it's going to go down. So I went back and sat down with my lawyer in Florida, Howard Ross from Battaglia and Ross. I'm going to shout them out because they deserve it. And I said, Howard, this is the situation. And Howard said, Walter, this is what you do. You put a phase one process in place. You go in, entice them to the government space, and you give them a phase one agreement that says they have to give you a check for $25,000 in order to partner with you. And that $25,000 is refundable from the successful performance of the joint venture you guys are contemplating. If they are serious, guess what? They're going to stick and you guys are going to go make some money. If they're opportunists, right, they're going to go pound sand, right? They're going to go down the road. And so we instituted that within the disabled veteran joint venture or relationship building system. And we've got veterans out there that, have put a couple $100,000 in the bank before they've even done their first contract. The long story short is that exploitation and opportunism runs rampant in the federal space. And you have to caveat emptor, right? You have to beware. You have to know your rights and regulations, or people are going to take your nickels.
Man, that's deep. Just listen to you talk about that. That's really deep in regards to how someone can have that type of gall to just say, pick a card, and that's the percentage you get. So, and there's just corruption everywhere on that front. And, you're here to help people.
Well, Lawrence, the thing, and it's Lawrence, correct?
Yep.
The thing that we have to recognize is when we start talking about and playing in these arenas for real, we're talking about tens, hundreds, billions of dollars, right? Tens of millions, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars. Ask yourself the question, what would you do to protect your $10 million contract if you were the incumbent on it, right? Mm-hmm. And so just because we're late to the dance and realizing that we have an advantage and the ability to go take that business away from these people doesn't mean that power is going to succeed without a demand, right? So, a lot of us have been exploited because we don't know what we don't know, right? We don't know the difference between wealth and riches. Right. So we walk into a situation and someone slides us a check with a name, signature, and no amount filled in, and we write $1 million on the check. and think we just did something.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to learn how to play and interface in these high net worth, these high wealth arenas. And my job, the contribution that I'm making to the equation is I'm showing our people the pathway to creating generational wealth. The succession planning and how you manage it, that's not my lane. My lane is to show you how we can take that $300 billion beachhead and move as much of that in any industry that we want into the hands of people that wear my social uniform and your social uniform without having to ask permission. And then the most important and most, what I think sexiest part of this is you, the people that are within the sound of my voice, can use those contract captures to become jobs creating agents in your own community. Are you smelling what I'm cooking, people? This is an opportunity of a lifetime for us. And anyone that would suggest to you that you should consider something else, you should have them go get their head examined. $300 billion, inelastic demand, you have a competitive advantage, and all you need to do is learn the know-how. And I'm saying this with aggression because I had to do this with the disabled veteran business community. I know I'm gonna have to do it with our community. And I think Will Smith said it best recently in a video podcast I saw him deliver, where he said, he was walking down the street and some young man yelled to him, "Will I do anything to be a star like you?" And he said he remembered thinking to himself, that's not true, right? Because when I'm up at night, studying my roles and things like that, you out at the club getting your groove on. Right. So in point of fact, I'm telling everyone within the sound of my voice that gravy train that you've been praying for just showed up. And the pathway for you to create the kind of generational wealth that allows your great-great-great-grandchild to look up at a portrait that you painted of yourself, because we always do the painting, and say, guess what? Pop or Nana got it right. That's my prayer. That's the mission that I'm on. And I apologize for digressing.
No, man, I love the passion. And, right now I want to get into, audience questions. I see a few of them in here. I was going to ask about opportunity zones, but I think that could wait until the next time that we speak because, we're running a little bit short on time. But let's get to some customer questions. And by the way, everybody, I'm here with Walter Cotton III. For those who are just tuning in, Walter Cotton is the managing partner of the Cotton Exchange, which is a boutique consulting firm focusing on helping contractors increase their position with the federal government. Today, we're talking about how Black business owners are making billions with a B, billions of dollars through federal government contracting. If you guys like this video, please go ahead and press the thumbs up button. Please show us some love so YouTube's algorithm can show us some love as well. Also, please make sure that you share and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to receive more content like the interview we're doing today with Walter in the future. So let's get to some of these questions, Walter. Let's see. So the first question that I see up here, Andy Guys, I'm going to go with that. Goosey, I'm not exactly sure. I apologize, Andy. Wants to know what business opportunities are there through government contracting for agricultural products?
Well, the great thing about the federal government is they have to telegraph all of their buys, and they utilize a system called the Federal Business Opportunity website. So if you go to www.fbo.gov, you're going to find a sophisticated portal there that has a very sophisticated search engine. And if you just type agricultural products in the general search engine, it's going to bring you all of the agricultural opportunities that the government has been looking at over the past 12 months. And most importantly, those that they are looking to buy in the next 30, 60, 90 days. And that utility has a more sophisticated search so that you could stratify your search by agency. Like you would be looking for things that would be coming out of USDA and the like. So you could stratify your search based on the specific agency. The source that you're looking for is fbo.gov, www.fbo.gov. That'll get you started.
All right. So the next question is, what product or service did you sell, Walter, to the government to get your $8 million contract?
Logistics. And I remember when I was, thinking about getting into this space, and a buddy of mine who was the chief financial officer at Hughes at that particular point, he said, Walter, you should get into logistics. And I didn't know what that was, right? Because I was coming from the days of material storage and handling and warehousing and the like. But it was in the area of logistics. And we helped an agency called Ditra when they built their new headquarters just outside of Fort Belvoir, relocate all of their assets from building A to building B through storage. So that was a logistical
Got you. Okay. So the last question I see in here right now, if you guys have any questions, this is the time to ask them. So I might take, one or two more questions, but I see a question from Darien Clark. Darien states that I just received my SDVOSB identifier. How do I land my first contract?
Well, the thing that you want to do, and I have a very mature system that I've put in place for veterans and disabled veterans. I actually created a community of practice for us. It's called the Maximum Practicable Utilization Network. So you'll want to go to mympu.org and register as a member. And once you get behind that particular, get into the portal, there is training. There's a community that's willing and ready to embrace you and show you how you can team up and partner up with them to take advantage of your SDVOSB certification. Now, I'd like to ask a question, because a lot of people get this SDVOSB certification thing mixed up, and I don't know if you can ask the question back, but I'd like to know whether or not that was a VA CVE verification that you recently got back, or if it was some other state level certification, because those things tend to be meaningless, whereas the VA verification is meaningful.
Got you. Okay, so Darien, if you heard that question, he said yes. So I don't know if he's saying yes to. I hope he's saying yes to the one that is meaningful.
Yeah, he's saying yes that he just got CVE verified
VA,
and
yeah,
for
VACVE, correct.
VACVE and what a lot of people don't recognize, we fought an aggressive battle all the way through the Supreme Court for a Vets First legislation, Public Law 109461, which gives veterans the first bite at the apple within the VA. Right, that's the second largest budget in the federal government. So to say it in a simple fashion, last year the VA's entire budget became available to bigger small businesses, and your listeners have the ability to be early adopters by joint venturing and partnering up with disabled veterans. And I'm not going to be able to exhaust it all here, but the opportunity is out of this world.
Got it. Yeah, I see a couple more questions in here. Let me get to the most important question. So KOG Acquisition states, how do we work with Walter ASAP? Destination Bingo states, how do I get your class? So basically they want to know how can they, patron your services, and then how can they get in touch with you if they want to work with you, or, just have you as a consultant or advisor.
Well, I'm semi-retired as a consultant. So that's why I tell people I drive a boutique consultancy. I only do work with people that I know and like. So in order to get me as a consultant, you got to know someone that I like. And then that's just a luxury that I found myself in at this point in my career. But as far as this content is concerned, I'm going through an aggressive process right now of taking this proven content and finding a way to make it cost effectively available to everyone that's within the sound of my voice. And one of the conversations I'm having is with Lawrence and the Black Business School to allow them to disseminate it and make it available to you. And hopefully those discussions will bear fruit. There are some other conversations that I'm having with the HBCU community about them doing some stuff in that same regard. But just between you and me, I'm not going to hold out a whole lot of promise for that. It's kind of slow. Be that as it may, I would tune back into the Black Business School and Lawrence and his groups if you want to get some near-term access. And if you're really zealous and really aggressive about wanting to do something, feel free to drop me an email directly at wcotton@mympu.org, and I'll triage it and see if there's a working relationship available for us.
All right, repeat the email address one more time. So wcotton.
Yeah, it's W Cotton. The cotton is spelled just like the fabric, only a little softer for the ladies. At mympu.org.
All right. So I just put his email address in the live chat as well. So if you guys want to reach out to Walter, you can do so there. And then also, when he contacted the Black Business School, I got really excited because this is an industry that we've kind of been looking at for a long time. We were just looking for the right person to actually move on with this course. So if you guys are interested in this course, please press the thumbs up button on YouTube because that's how I will be deciding if, or Boyce and myself are deciding which courses we want to push forward with and in which order as well. So the more input that you guys give and fervor that you guys give in terms of this is something that you want, the higher the likelihood that we're going to move this to the top of the list. So please make sure you comment, please make sure you share, please make sure that you like this video because we really do look at those numbers when we decide which courses for the Black Business School that we're going to pursue. So before we get out of here, Walter, do you have any closing thoughts? And if I didn't get to your question, I apologize. Just please email Walter and go to mympu.org as well. and check out what he has to offer. If even if you don't want to wait for the Black Business School, because that might take, a few months, to get that off the ground. If you want it, I have no problem with you going to his site. Please do so, because obviously you can see this brother knows what he's talking about, both from a strategic level and also from a tactical level also. So Walter, do you have any closing thoughts before we get out of here?
Yeah, I do have one closing thought, because at the end of the day, nothing's going to happen unless people take some action, right? So as Lawrence has indicated, if you all are interested in some additional detail, give them the thumbs up button so that they can evaluate this course and make that information available to you. If you have a interest that's beyond that, as Lawrence says, reach out to me directly. I will, on a case-by-case basis, take on a client that comes through these kinds of relationships. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is do something, right? Don't sit around talking about I'm chilling. We have to be actively involved in the solutions that we want for our communities. And we can't be waiting for someone up on high to trickle it down into our community, even if they're wearing our social uniform. So I'm asking our grassroots level to say, listen, if this is something you want, if this is something you think you deserve, to engage, let Lawrence and those know, reach out to me. Let's bust this dam open so that we can create this rising tide in our community, because, and I'm going to say this with aggression here, this is a point in time opportunity for us to go in and capture generational wealth. Please join me in taking maximum advantage of it. And that's what I'll leave the audience with.
Wonderful, Walter. I really appreciate your time and dropping the knowledge that you dropped today for our audience, for the Black Financial Channel and the Great Black Speakers Podcast. Before we get out of here, I would like to thank our corporate sponsor, which me and Boyce own, the Black Business School. And with the Black Business School, we don't just help you climb the corporate ladder, we help you build one as well. So what we do is help African Americans obtain a culturally relevant yet practical education in all things wealth building at a price they can afford. So whether you're looking for additional freedom in your life, and for you to spend more time with your kids, to travel, to do things that you actually enjoy, whether you're looking to leave generational wealth and legacy. So as what Walter said, your painting, your post, or your picture will be on your grandchild's wall, your great-great-grandchild's wall. We have courses for you. Or even if you're just looking for additional stability so you can retire easy and enjoy the fruits of the hard work that you had and that you made over your life, we have courses for you for that too, for that as well. Also, we focus on three main areas. We focus on small business entrepreneurship, and we focus on real estate investing and also stock market investing. So if you want to give us a shot, please head over to theblackbusinessschool.com. That is theblackbusinessschool.com. So on behalf of Walter Cotton III, my name is Lawrence Watkins. I am the founder and CEO of Great Black Speakers. I'm also the president and chief operating officer of the Black Business School. You guys take care, be blessed, and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.